The bodybuilder at its root is concerned with self-development through self-mastery.
Everybody's on steroids. Everybody.
Look at the guys in the Olympia stage, and you're hitting a pose, and then you're like...
When it comes to talking about what choice should be made, is that unenhanced bodybuilding is the way to go.
This is time right now for natural bodybuilding to grow, where everybody's seeing that health is the most important thing.
So men's open, how did you feel about the placings in that in men's open? And obviously, I
love the placings. I love the placings. Well, you know, for me personally, I really wanted to see Brandon and Rami end up 1 and 2, just for the simple reason they're both great guys. They're just great guys. They're both family guys. I don't think people understand Rami has kids and how good of a family guy he is. Like, he's an awesome guy. But I always want the best guy to win, right? That's the fairest thing is for the best guy to win. So when they came out, you know, Phil made a real good first impression. And then I thought Brandon made a great first impression. Rami came out and I thought, man, he looks really, really good. And then as they posed, you know, Steve worked them really hard. He worked those guys really hard. And, you know, you're watching it and you're like, he's posing them so hard. You're sitting there thinking, who's going to fade first? Who's going to be the first one to fade? And then Phil started getting tired and you could see, you know, his stomach moving, and Brandon faded a little bit, but Rami got even better. Like, you could tell Rami had been working on his posing with Dennis James because he didn't fade an ounce. And then I think what really finished it off was his poses from the side. He looked so unbelievable from the side in the side shots. And at that point it was like, okay, Rami's going to win. You know, we'll see what happens with Brandon and Phil. Probably Brandon edged him out. And then at the finals, it was the same thing, except all of a sudden Hadi looked unreal. At the finals, all of a sudden Hadi had lines everywhere. He was the first guy to pose, and I was like, man, he looks amazing. He was strided from head to toe. If Hadi would have looked like that at prejudging, Hadi could have been up as far as second place, actually. So I thought the judging was right on, man. I don't disagree with any call they made. I thought it was great. I thought it was great to see Akeem get some love. He looked awesome. I'm excited about this year already. That was the most exciting Olympia I've seen in a long time. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. I thought it was awesome.
In a way, again, he's one of those guys that people, just like Terrence, right? Nobody expected him to do that well.
Yeah.
Almost like an underdog, you know, situation. But do you feel like he's a serious contender for maybe this year or maybe the following year?
Well, I mean, in a way, he's kind of like Rami when you think about it, because what have people always said about Rami? He's so big. If he just gets really hard, he'll be hard to beat. Well, Akeem's kind of the same way. He's a monster. He's a big guy. He has a lot of muscle. And he was in great shape for the Olympia, but I could see him being even better, and I could see him definitely leapfrogging some people. I don't see sixth as his ceiling at all. I think he could definitely do better.
So, William, I want to ask you about William Bonac, right? He's a great bodybuilder. He always delivers. He's always like, you know, the top 5.
Yeah.
Always top 5, you know, like almost guaranteed, right? So what do you think he needs to do to win? Like, what do you think he needs to improve in order for him to be the champion? Because he definitely is champion quality, like bodybuilder, right? Like, what do you think he needs to do? And obviously other people got to come off, you know, for him. But like, what do you think he needs to do specifically in order to advance?
You know, you get to a point in this sport where when everybody's maxing out their genetics, their muscle, it comes almost down to structure. And William has so much muscle on his body. He shows up in great condition. I've seen his legs a little off sometimes, though. His legs aren't as big sometimes at some shows, last year in particular. But I think William's, it's just the other guy's structure is better. I don't think William can, he can't change his structure. He can just, and he's only going to be able to add on so much muscle to the way he's built. I love the way he's built. He looks like a little cartoon character. Like, I remember competing one show that he was in. I was in the 212s and he was in the open. And I remember standing behind him in a pump-up room. And I remember thinking he looked like a Marvel superhero. He looked like a comic book character, which I like that look myself. I don't see him getting back up into that top 2 or 3 at the Olympia. Not because I don't think William's awesome. I think it's just structure. I just think his structure. Well, and if the other guys come off, of course you can always move up. And who knows what Phil's going to do. I think Hottie's going to be there. I think Rami's going to be there. I think Brandon's still going to be there. Brandon can improve more too. I think if you talk to Brandon, he would tell you that too.
Do you think he was worse 2020 than he was in 2019 when he won, or do you think he improved but just Rami was better? Like, what do you think?
Well, Rami was just so far and away the best he's ever been. Like, we've never seen Rami look like that. So the credit goes to Rami. Like, Brandon didn't lose the show. Rami won the show. Rami just came in at his best. I thought Brandon had made some improvements, actually. I thought the lines in his legs were a little better. I thought he was in good condition. He still had, when he walked out and they had that shadow, he still had that crazy cartoon shape look to his body too. So I think I read Brandon saying he wished, maybe next year he'll come in a little bigger. But I didn't see him as being flat or anything like that. He looked pretty daggone big to me. I just like to see Brandon with just a little bit more legs, a little bit more hamstring, a little bit more separation in his legs. But, I can see Brandon right up there in that top 2 again next year.
Mm-hmm. So what about classic division? It's interesting. I saw comparisons between 2019 and 2020. And you definitely can see that Chris Bumstead improved a lot. He put on a lot of muscle. Huge difference.
Yep.
It's obviously just photos, you know what I mean? But I'm sure you would agree with that. Like, it's a huge improvement.
Yeah, Chris is phenomenal, man. And he had some health problems last year that, caused him to be a little off. And man, how cool would it be to win the Olympia when you're off, right? Like, man, that would be so cool. But Chris is a great guy. Like, he's a fantastic guy. I've met him. I've talked to him a lot of times. He's so mature for his age. I think he's only like 25, 26 years old, something like that. He's so mature for his age. I think Chris is awesome. People said, is Chris beatable? But he is beatable. He is beatable. I think that Terrence
Breon was unbeatable. Honestly, 3 years ago, I thought Breon was completely unbeatable.
Nobody in that class is unbeatable. If you look purely from a classic perspective, like if you look at like classic poses and you look at how Terrence looks in those poses, who's better than Terrence? I don't think anybody's better than Terrence. Having said that, Chris has a big structure and he's got a lot of muscle and he looks awesome. But what's going to happen if Terrence puts on 5 pounds of muscle, 7 pounds of muscle, and he takes that and gets even more crazy looking and he keeps that shape? So I don't think Chris is unbeatable, but I think he's a tremendous champion. And I think he's a great guy. I'm very happy for him. And I don't know what Breon's planning on doing. It's not like Breon is out of the picture either. The kid's awesome. He's amazing. So I don't think you can just write him off either. I think it's a mistake to say maybe Breon wants to go to 212s. I don't know, but I think it's a mistake for people to say, well, Breon's done. I wouldn't say that. He just maybe a slightly bit off, but
no, he's amazing. I think it's more of a mental thing. He has to now, kind of go back and figure out the strategy, right? But he's still the top contender, obviously.
Oh, he's phenomenal. That whole class was phenomenal. Like, I remember the first couple guys that came out. I was sitting there and I was thinking, oh my God, these guys are awesome. These guys are monsters. And I was a little nervous actually before Terrence came out. I was like, man, these guys are so big. Terrence is 175 pounds. And I was thinking, man, I hope they're not, hope they don't dwarf him. But once they started posing, I was like, okay, he's good. But I'd be lying if I'd say I wasn't a little nervous. But once he got out there and he started posing, he was good. But that class is loaded. I love that Wesley Vissers kid. I think he's got a ton of potential. The guy that got 5th place, big dude, huge dude. I love that guy. I think he's got a ton of potential. There's some really good guys in that class.
Sure. So what's going to be Terrence's strategy for this year? Is it getting bigger, basically? Getting more massive?
Yeah, you always got to maintain. Well, he's got God-gifted lines. Like, he's got lines that, are amazing. So it's not, though, 20 pounds of muscle in Terrence. Well, first of all, he wouldn't make the weight. But it's, for him, it's a little bit more muscle in his upper body, a little bit more V-taper. And, if you saw how much improved Terrence did from the Arnold to the Olympia, it was amazing. Like, the Arnold, he got 2nd place. Fellow beat him. But from the Arnold to the Olympia, Terrence made tremendous progress. Now he's got a year to do that. If he can do that again, if Terrence can go what he looked like at the Olympia this year and make that same jump, he's going to be deadly next year. I mean, he will be absolutely deadly.
Do you think, I asked Steve Weinberger the same question and a lot of other people, right, obviously, and they all say no, it's anybody, just like you said, anybody can be beaten, right?
Absolutely.
But do you feel like Chris Bumstead has that, the height aspect, that plays into the illusion of just being more dominant on stage? Do you think that plays a role into it?
Yeah, it does. It does. He's got that big structure, the wide structure. He's got a small waist. He's very gifted too. He's got God-given genetics as well. He strikes me as a hard worker. So yeah, he's going to be hard to beat. I don't want to, just because I'm saying he's beatable, that doesn't mean he's got all these flaws. That's not what I'm saying. Because he is still going to be hard to beat.
Well, a lot of people said that his back was his weak point, but do you feel like after seeing him in 2020, do you feel like he completely brought that up to a point where
it's not his weak point anymore? No. I don't feel like his back's a weak point now.
And let's talk about 212 again. So 212, obviously, Shawn, your client is not a champion. But it was. Did you feel like it was close between? Kamal is also a great competitor.
Oh, Kamal looked great. Kamal, I told you I talked to Terrence about 4 weeks after the show, and I said, hey, we got to get you in that top two. So Shawn, probably about the 4 week out point, he called and he said, what do you think? And I said, it's going to be between you and Kamal. I'd seen, Kamal train with Flex in Florida. I seen how much bigger he was up through the chest. And the year before when Kamal won, I felt like he won it on condition. I felt like he was razor sharp, particularly if you remember when he hit his ab and thigh pose. It was lights out, razor sharp. And I seen that he'd put on a lot of mass. So I was thinking, man, he's going to be right there again. And I knew how much mass Shawn had put on because I'd been watching him, right? So I told Shawn, it's going to be between you and Kamal, for sure. And so after prejudging, like when they walked out of prejudging, your eyes went right to Shawn. They went right to him. He looked awesome. But Kamal looked awesome too. So me personally, I felt like Kamal beat Shawn in the rear double bicep pose. I don't really feel like he beat him in any other poses. I felt like Shawn edged him out in the other poses. So I felt it was close, but I felt like, if I was judging, Shawn would have won. And I saw Shawn after prejudging, and I said, well, I told him the same thing I'm telling you. He beat you in a rear double bicep pose, but I don't think he beat you in other poses. I think you're gonna squeak this one out. So again, I thought the judges got it right. It's a close call. But Kamal, I think Kamal's coming back. I look for him to be tough again. So I think they're going to have another rematch this year. We'll see. There's another guy that could welcome himself to the party too. That's Keon. Keon has the genetic structure, maybe the best genetic structure in the whole 212 class. Now, how that looks next to Shawn in prime condition, who knows? But I think Keon, I see the three kind of being, Keon and Kamal and Shawn.
Great. Wasn't he in Classic also?
He was, yeah.
He was, right? Yeah. He was in Classic. He changed, I think, actually 2020, though. That's when he changed to 212.
Yeah.
So do you think Shawn can improve even more?
I think so. It's not, you don't get Shawn, you don't say, okay, let's pack on 10, 15 pounds of muscle, because his frame is a little bit slight. But what you can do with Shawn is you can improve, like, for example, we're working on his V-taper. We're trying to make the V shape even better. So, we're doing a lot of training for his upper lats, his teres. We're trying to get some deep tissue work done on his subscap and his serratus, so everything moves well. We're keeping his rotator cuff healthy. We're doing all this stuff to keep his V-taper. We want to improve the V-taper. If you look at Shawn's mass, like muscle per square inch on his body, he's a mini Ronnie Coleman. He really is. So now what happens when you take that mass and you make the shape even better? So, our strategy isn't for him to turn into a giant block. Our strategy is to just make him take that mass and just keep improving on his shape. I think if we do that, I think he's going to be hard to beat. That's all I'll say.